this was a takeover of a movie.
She just wants to own it all. And that's fine. If that is your method of working, then do that. But you have to create your own projects. You have to put yourself in that position that you are in charge, not take it from somebody else.
He built that movie. He found the book. He had the rights to it. He believed in it before anybody else. He put his money into it. He put everything into that project.
And this is a powerful thing that you're going through, and your whole career seems to have been gone and vanished before your very eyes.
What happens when Hollywood's golden girl isn't as perfect as she seems? Bryan Freedman claims Blake Lively's shocking behind-the-scenes behavior could mark the ultimate downfall of her career. But what triggered this explosive revelation, and why now?
This would be in the complaint. I truly believe that in my heart, because it's absolutely crazy as you listen to this. She really does just kind of line out what her method is. And there's just a lack of self-awareness here that is just, it's insane. It's actually insane to watch. And I'm very surprised that she felt comfortable enough to say all of this out loud. And I don't feel like it's taking things out of context. I don't feel like it's manipulating her to look a certain way. This is her talking. This is her interview where she is being honored. And I have questions. That's all I'm gonna
like Forbes Power Women. And she's so confident. Exactly. I think that's so telling how confident she is to just say, I have no qualms lying to the director, taking control of their movie, pulling the rug from them. Like, oh my God.
Blake Lively's image as the quintessential Hollywood sweetheart is one that fans have adored for years. But Bryan Freedman, one of Hollywood's most prominent attorneys, has painted a very different picture. Freedman, known for representing some of the biggest names in the entertainment world, rarely steps into battles he doesn't expect to win. This time, his claims against Lively are so explosive that they've already left ripples throughout Hollywood. So, what exactly did he reveal? And why are some of the biggest players in the industry suddenly reconsidering their loyalty to Blake? Let's start with Freedman's role in all of this. He was initially brought into the fold during a heated legal dispute involving Blake and a powerhouse film studio. Blake, who had always curated an image of professionalism and charm, was reportedly gearing up for a strong case to defend her position. But Freedman didn't just respond. He countered with a series of revelations that transformed the narrative overnight. In court filings and public statements, Freedman shifted the focus entirely by pulling allegations of Blake's on-set behavior to the forefront, challenging not just her professional ethics, but her character as well. The coverage snowballed, and suddenly, it wasn't about the legal case anymore. It was about Blake. The first bombshell accusation was simple but shocking. Freedman alleged that Blake routinely manipulated on-set dynamics to maintain control over projects. This directly contradicted the wholesome, collaborative image she's worked so hard to cultivate. Witnesses reportedly came forward with accounts of how Blake demanded changes to scripts, sidestepped directors on creative decisions, and even inserted herself into areas of production that weren't hers to oversee. Freedman allegedly backed some of these claims with what he called solid documentation. And though the exact nature of this evidence hasn't been disclosed publicly, sources close to the case hinted at emails and text exchanges that made her intentions crystal clear. But it didn't stop at paperwork. Freedman also introduced testimonies from crew members who worked alongside Blake. One anonymous source recounted an instance where she allegedly vetoed a casting decision without consulting the director, saying it would distract from her performance. Another claimed she pressured the production into reworking entire scenes, costing significant delays. These stories, combined with Freedman's carefully curated evidence, painted a picture far from the Blake people recognized from red carpets and interviews. The timing of these revelations couldn't have been worse, or better, depending on where you stand. Blake's career was at a crossroads, with several high-profile projects either in development or slated for release. As these allegations gained traction in the media, Hollywood insiders began to whisper, question, and doubt. Freedman's narrative not only contradicted Blake's public accusations, but placed her in the crosshairs of a growing public perception crisis. His ability to reveal these details with such precision directly undermined any leverage she thought she had. The fallout was swift. Some industry insiders who once championed Blake began distancing themselves. One producer reportedly froze negotiations on a project she was attached to, fearing the negative press could hinder its success. And while Freedman hasn't divulged all his cards yet, it's clear that his claims have triggered a cascading effect. Hollywood thrives on reputation, and Blake's carefully crafted image is now in question. The revelations from Freedman jolted the industry awake, but the real damage began once the public caught wind. And here's the bigger issue. The allegations about Blake's behavior on that set weren't isolated. They became the very weapon that started unraveling her career. But let's break this down further. Just how bad was her behavior, and why did it spark such outrage?
Harvey, imagine you being accused of something that you just didn't do. You just weren't part of, and you're caught up in this, and you're a real decent human being, and this is a powerful thing that you're going through, and your whole career seems to have been gone and vanished before your very eyes.
I'm confused about that. I know William Morris dropped Justin, but at the same time, more people know who this guy is than they did before this. And just in terms of, the street Nielsen's that I see, just in terms of, what comes at us here at TMZ, that Blake was winning at the beginning and it turned around and she's not now. So isn't it mission accomplished? Because, I know you're suing for huge numbers, but especially your lawsuit against Blake. I feel like her lawsuit was a PR to try and salvage PR, and his was a reaction to that. And hasn't that all kind of been settled at this point?
I think what hasn't been settled is the fact that they've lost 4 projects, significant projects, the studio. There's obviously the reputational and emotional distress harm. He's got 2 little kids that pay attention to what goes on in the world. His wife is devastated, and there's others involved in this too that have lost significant business and personal relations.
What went down on the set of It Ends With Us has now become the stuff of Hollywood gossip legend. At first glance, Blake Lively was the shining star of the project, both as its lead actress and as a producer. By taking on dual roles, she had creative control and influence, a move many saw as a testament to her ambition and dedication. But behind the scenes, people tell a different story. According to allegations outlined by Bryan Freedman, that ambition may have come across as something else entirely: manipulation. Freedman's expose suggested that Blake's hands-on approach crossed a line. She reportedly tried to dominate key decisions typically left to the director and other creative heads of the production. One insider recalled how Blake pushed for significant changes to the script just days before shooting, throwing the entire production team into chaos. Scenes were rewritten, scheduled shoot days were extended, and budgets were reportedly stretched. Not because of creative necessity, Freedman alleged, but because Blake insisted on having her vision prioritized. It didn't sit well with the people she was working with. There were also reports of tension between Blake and certain members of the cast. One particularly heated instance allegedly occurred over the portrayal of an intimate scene. Freedman claimed she micromanaged those moments to the point where she essentially served as an uncredited intimacy coordinator. While her intentions may have been to ensure these scenes were handled delicately, witnesses described her actions as overbearing and disruptive. Crew members reportedly felt blindsided as Blake overrode their input, reshaped choreography, and dictated the emotional tone. According to Freedman, this overreach became more than just a production hiccup. It created friction with her co-stars, who began pulling back from her behind the scenes. And it wasn't just interpersonal drama. The very attempts Blake took to ensure these scenes were handled respectfully led to scrutiny. Freedman alleged that her fixation raised several red flags and even sparked rumors that she didn't trust the production crew's judgment. Critics outside of the film started questioning whether her involvement blurred the lines between star power and inappropriate interference. For someone who had always been seen as immensely likable and relaxed, this painted a radically different image, one of control and micromanagement, even when it wasn't her place. According to Freedman, all of this contributed to Hollywood insiders starting to question her credibility. The producer credit that once boosted her reputation as a multifaceted talent now seemed to work against her, reinforcing claims that she was difficult to work with. If court documents are to be believed, the creative disagreements weren't isolated incidents, but spiraled into delays and dissatisfaction so severe that they became central to Freedman's case. This set wasn't just a one-time disaster, it became Exhibit A in a broader pattern Freedman was exposing. But here's where it gets messier. Freedman suggested the chaos on this set was far from an anomaly. Was it really the result of momentary stress and artistic passion? Or was it symptomatic of something much bigger?
This was a takeover of a movie. And, whether we find out exactly what the reasons for the takeover were and who was behind the takeover, I think that we're going to find some interesting documents when Discovery starts. And I'm looking forward to Discovery, because when you start to look into what was in Stephanie Jones's hands and what was in Leslie Sloan's hands and what was in Blake Lively's text messages, and what those discussions were like, I think we're going to find the answers to this really quickly.
Bryan Freedman didn't just stop with the chaos on the set of It Ends With Us. He went further, revealing alleged issues that spanned across multiple projects in Blake Lively's career. According to Freedman, the behavior described on her recent set wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a troubling pattern that's reportedly followed her for years, turning her once sparkling reputation into something much darker. Freedman's claims painted Blake as a recurring source of conflict in the industry. One project he referenced was a film where she reportedly clashed with the director over final editing decisions. While post-production adjustments are common in Hollywood, Freedman alleged that Blake staged a campaign to have key moments re-edited in a way that favored her character. Anonymous crew members confirmed to him that the director pushed back, but Blake's influence as the film's leading star ultimately won out. The result? Delays, reshoots, and a production team reportedly left frustrated by her demands. It didn't stop with directors. Freedman also brought forward testimonies from co-stars who described uncomfortable experiences working with Blake. In one instance, a fellow actor allegedly requested a mediator after repeated creative disagreements with her on set. Though the specifics remain unclear, Freedman suggested that the strain wasn't just professional, it created a tense, competitive environment that harmed the project's overall working dynamic. And if these frustrations were already circulating back then, Freedman leveraged them to build his case. Perhaps the most talked about claim involved her time on the set of a commercial campaign. According to Freedman, Blake's involvement went beyond standard celebrity endorsement. She allegedly refused to wear the stylist-approved wardrobe, citing creative disagreements with the ad's tone. Ultimately, this led to a last-minute scramble on set, where the commercial had to be revised to fit Blake's vision. Freedman argued this wasn't a one-time hiccup, but part of a larger pattern where her hands-on approach reportedly came at the expense of efficiency and cooperation. These allegations have created a narrative that's tough to ignore. Freedman framed Blake as someone whose behavior went unchecked because of her star status. And while individual disagreements might be shrugged off in isolation, the accumulation of these stories has built an image of her as unpredictable and difficult to work with, qualities that no studio or producer wants in a leading actor. Media outlets picked up on these claims quickly, amplifying the narrative, with headlines questioning if Blake's charm was merely PR, masking a much more divisive presence behind the scenes. The fallout of these repeated issues came swiftly. Freedman reportedly detailed how deals in progress began to evaporate as producers started rethinking their alliances with her. One source claimed negotiations on a major franchise stalled shortly after Freedman's revelations went public, an indication that Hollywood may be quietly but deliberately distancing itself. And if this history of alleged manipulation keeps adding up, the question isn't just about her guilt, it's whether the industry still finds her worth the risk. So with her reputation teetering, how has all of this directly impacted Blake's career prospects?
Built that movie. He found the book. He had the rights to it. He believed in it before anybody else. He put his money into it. He put everything into that project. And then he says, I want you, Blake. Blake's a little bit, and then he's even willing to give her that. And she still, it's not enough. You don't even get to come to the premiere. You're not allowed in the premiere. Fine, but he goes in the basement when I show up. I mean, that's not authorship. That's not autonomy. That's control. That's selfishness. That's entitlement. This woman is a monster.
When Hollywood decides you're more trouble than you're worth, the consequences hit fast. Blake Lively, once considered untouchable in the entertainment world, is now watching doors slam shut. After Bryan Freedman's revelations came to light, the reaction within the industry was swift and brutal. For a star whose career once seemed bulletproof, it's becoming clear that her reputation may never fully recover. One of the immediate effects of Freedman's allegations was the fallout with several high-profile projects. Blake was reportedly in advanced discussions with a major streaming platform for an original series, a role that would have showcased her talent as both an actress and executive producer. But as the claims against her behavior started making waves, that same platform quietly pulled back from negotiations. No announcements, no formal explanations, just silence. For Blake, who has openly spoken about stepping into more behind-the-scenes roles, it was a crushing blow to her ambitions. Another rumored project, a romantic comedy in development with a well-known director, also appears to have gone cold. These weren't just roles. They were opportunities to reshape her image within the industry, and now they're gone. But the damage didn't stop with Hollywood projects. Freedman's allegations reportedly caught the attention of key brands Blake had long-standing partnerships with. One luxury fashion house, which Blake had represented for years as an ambassador, quietly removed a campaign that had her face front and center from their planned marketing slate. Another beauty giant she had worked with is rumored to have postponed renewing its contract with her. In an industry as image-driven as Hollywood, high-profile endorsements often solidify a star's power, but losing those opportunities raises questions about how brands want to be associated moving forward. In this case, it seems like they don't. Behind closed doors, studio executives are also beginning to reconsider Blake's viability. Freedman's claims painted her as a potential liability, and with the media frenzy following his accusations, studios don't appear ready to take risks on her. One insider reportedly stated that the issue wasn't just the allegations, but the timing. For executives planning new productions, the idea of investing in someone who's now surrounded by controversy is a gamble they're not willing to make. Freedman's case provided enough fuel to turn whispered doubts into open hesitations. The fallout became even more visible with public reactions, or the lack of them. Typically, when controversy surrounds a star, collaborators and industry allies come forward to defend them. In Blake's case, there's been an almost deafening silence from those who've worked with her in the past. Some co-stars who once sang her praises in interviews have stayed quiet. A producer Blake worked with on a previous film reportedly distanced themselves, telling a trade outlet that their focus is on upcoming collaborations with other talent. Meanwhile, the media frenzy only added to her difficulties. Headlines have become increasingly focused on the accusations rather than her work. Articles have rehashed Freedman's claims in ways that have reshaped public perception of Blake entirely. The woman who once seemed untouchable has now become a PR nightmare for her team, with sources suggesting that even major efforts to repair her image are falling short under the weight of these allegations. For a star whose career was built on charm and relatability, this kind of scandal cuts deep. Hollywood has made it clear. Blake's spotless image is no longer intact, and the long-term effects of Freedman's revelations could prove irreversible. With the industry turning its back, the question isn't just whether Blake can recover, it's whether she'll even get the chance.
That same lawyer has not allowed anybody else to even remotely record or say anything moving forward. I've heard other people through the grapevine, they've now emailed and called, we do not consent for recording. It almost is like it was a wake-up call for these people. Like, hello, you came after the press. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, I asked you guys, like, I know you don't want to disparage, but my God, some of these moves have just been so dumb. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it what it is.
What you will find is that the manner in which our constitutional privileges and rights are compromised is by slow erosion. It's never a function of some explosive, violent maneuver. It's bit by bit, and unfortunately, it tends to be a function of who's making the attack. And in this case, again, you have people who are famous. You have people who have audible voices. You have people who are socioeconomically sophisticated. And as a result, that's ammunition. You call it lawfare. I like that rather than warfare. Lawfare. I haven't heard that term, but I'm going to steal it from you. I'll tell you right now. It's that good. In lawfare, that's what the ammunition is. It's money, it's privilege, it's audible voices in society. That's why lobbyists have that much power, have the power that they do in this current culture.
Do you, either Dave or do you think that the lawyers are nervous? Because I know you got to get your money, but these are the same lawyers that, paid off, that took the money from Trump. These are lawyers who sort of gotten afraid and sort of said, okay, well, let's move on. Do you sense that's happening here? Do you think what's going to break them or terrify them the most? Do you think it was wise to subpoena all these social media YouTubers and journalists, etc.?
I'm going to let Dave answer that, but I'll just say this as a type of preface. If you go looking for trouble, you're going to find it. If you're going to bully people, at some point in time, one of these people is going to stand up and fight back. And in this circumstance, Popcorn Planet is that guy. Dave, go ahead and answer that better.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, speaking from experience, when you get to the 11th hour of litigation, every lawyer gets nervous. You got to make sure you got your case made. Do I have my case? Have I garnered the evidence that I need to prove my case? And we're at that stage in this case. It is the 11th hour. There've already been extensions of these discovery deadlines. So yep. I can assure you, there are some nerves over there. As far as whether they bit off more than they can chew, I think we've all done that as lawyers at some point too. I mean, just because you have the ability to issue discovery doesn't mean it's always a great idea to do that.
Is there a way back from a scandal this massive? Hollywood has seen stars fall before, but Blake Lively's situation might be one of the most puzzling. Whether she can recover, or even wants to, is still up for debate. But one thing is clear. Her future in the industry is hanging by a thread. Hollywood is a place where perception is everything. Image builds careers, and just as easily, it can destroy them. Blake is a prime example of how quickly the narrative can turn. For over a decade, she embodied a sort of unreachable perfection, effortlessly glamorous, charming, and the quintessential girl next door. But in an industry that thrives on creating illusions, that persona feels fragile now. Once allegations surface, it's as if cracks in the carefully curated veneer start to show. And as Freedman's revelations spread, they have left one question burning. Was this all carefully orchestrated from the start? Restoring a career after public disgrace isn't impossible, but it's never guaranteed. There are examples out there of celebrities climbing back from devastating lows. Robert Downey Jr., one of Hollywood's most famous comeback stories, was persona non grata in the industry after years of personal struggles. But over time, he rebuilt himself as a blockbuster star. He had the talent, the charisma, and, most notably, the willingness to take responsibility for his past. Then again, there are others who couldn't claw their way back. For every comeback kid, there's a Lindsay Lohan whose reputation, right or wrong, proves too toxic for directors, producers, and brands to overlook. In Blake's case, the issue isn't about being sidelined for bad behavior off set. It's about allegations that go directly against what made her bankable in Hollywood in the first place. Now, the stakes are different. Blake's charm was her currency, and Freedman's claim that she was manipulative, controlling, and disruptive strikes at the heart of her appeal. The same public who cheered for her red carpet looks and relatable interviews might not be quick to forgive actions that some see as arrogant or calculated. If Blake hopes to recover what she's lost, she'll need to transition from damage control to genuine accountability. That would mean not just denying allegations or staying out of sight. It would mean publicly addressing the controversies head-on, perhaps even reframing them as a misunderstanding of her creative passion. She'd have to risk humility in an effort to salvage trust, which may be the hardest part. Even then, redemption doesn't happen in isolation. Public forgiveness requires the media to shift the narrative. Right now, the headlines are working against her. For her to return to form, the industry itself would also need to take a gamble on her. And that's increasingly rare in a culture that moves on quickly from tarnished stars. Would producers, co-stars, and crew even be willing to collaborate with her again? Will box offices warm up to the idea of Blake Lively as a major name once more? Comebacks may be possible, but in Hollywood, not all reputations are created equal. The real question is, can the woman who once seemed untouchable rebuild when the very foundation of her image has crumbled? Blake Lively's story is a stark reminder of how quickly Hollywood can turn on its own. Years of careful image building unraveled in the face of Bryan Freedman's accusations, proving that fame rests on a razor-thin edge between adoration and scrutiny. But what does this say about an industry so fixated on perfection? Is it truly about actions or the optics surrounding them? For Blake, the fallout may feel catastrophic now. But this isn't the first time a star has faced an uphill battle for redemption. Could she transform this into a second act? Or has Hollywood already decided she's beyond saving?